Hey guys, Matt Miller here with PolitiBrawl News. Watch Judge Jeanine shut down Jessica Tarlov for trying to say that Donald Trump is wrong to enforce his transgender sports executive order in the state of Maine following his viral clash with Maine Governor Janet Mills that we saw last week. Watch them clash right here.
Well, it shouldn't have been a surprise because when Joe Biden left office, he tried to change Title IX and he tried to add the transgender identity as being a basis for discrimination. And so a federal judge has since vacated that, and the president has issued an executive order. And this should not be a surprise to any Democrat because the country, in incredible numbers, I don't know what the stats are, but the country is against men in women's sports. Everybody knows that a transgender is at a physical advantage over girls, okay, if you're playing in a girls' sport. So the president's saying you're going to jeopardize $250 million in federal funding, and she's going to say, well, I'm following federal law and state law. Who cares what the state law said? The federal law has supremacy on this issue. It's federal money, okay, and she's going to lose. And it's stupid of her, as far as I'm concerned, to say, well, with the federal law supports us. No, you're stupid. It doesn't.
Jessica, Maine's a poor state. Losing $250 million over something like this just seems dumb.
Yeah, we'll see how it plays out. I took it that Governor Mills was also talking about the anti-discrimination laws that exist and that she'll have to abide by them. And we'll see. That was my expectation, that then this would happen immediately and there would be funding on the table and it'll play out. But the problem with some of these executive orders as it pertains to gender is that gender is a lot more complicated than they would have you believe. Like, one of Trump's lawyers was in court with this federal judge, Judge Reyes, and said, there's men and there's women. It's just about male and female. And the judge said that's actually biologically incorrect, that there are 30 examples of types of intersex people. So not everyone is
Well, what does that mean?
It's not
Intersex.
What is that?
intersex. Well, you say
You have both.
You have both?
It's such a rare exception. It doesn't even.
That's
It's
exactly
No,
the point. It's just like the transgenders trying to compete. There's like 1%.
I'm not denying
So
that.
why
I think it's
why force girls across this
I'm not
country
trying to.
have to be in a
I
bathroom?
have-
So
I have-
just admit it's illegal, it's wrong, and the public doesn't
Well,
want
that's
it.
not what you would be admitting by saying, like, illegal doesn't mean
For
illegal.
200,000 years have been men and women. Now we got 3,
I'm
4,
just saying
20.
that
No,
you
30.
have to
We have
consider 30 types. The point is that you can't just make a generalized sweeping law that would exclude people who do exist. You have to make sure that there's some place for them
But
in this
not
conversation.
to the
I'm not asking about
disadvantage
transgender.
of women.
I have never said that I thought that transgender women should play in women's sports. I'm saying that some of
Okay.
these executive orders on gender are more complicated than the administration thinks, and then they show up in court and they don't even know about intersex
Let's get
people.
some of the other genders in here, Greg.
The Trump presidency, every morning is like the day after Halloween. I wake up and I have a big bag of candy waiting for me, and I have to slow down because I'm going to throw up before breakfast. I can't stop. I mean, I love this. And also what that does is it forces the discussion beyond the, I hate to use the phrase again, load-bearing phrase, transphobic. So generally what would happen is you would go like, I don't like to have, men saying that their women should not be in women's sports. And you go, well, that's transphobic. And then everybody go, ooh, better shut down. Now you go, no. You have to explain to me why. You have to tell me why that should be allowed. Then you can get into the argument. Well, there's this 0.000000000% who are intersectional. And he goes, well, that's great. I would call that the tyranny of the minority.
So a minuscule minority of people, of athletes, are actually transgender, right? There's enough of them to spoil the fairness of competition for women, right? If there's one transgender athlete in a sports competition, whether it's track and field, whether it's swimming, whatever it is, God forbid it's wrestling or boxing, then they're the most likely to win for many factors. If they were born biologically male, they have testosterone, they have stronger bone density, they're bigger in frame. They have all kinds of hormonal advantages, physiological advantages over women, and they are extremely likely to take first place, and they definitely have physical advantages over women, and everyone else in that competition is at a disadvantage. An even smaller minority of people fall into this category of intersex, where they actually are people who are born with both male and female genitals. So this is a lot of times what people think of when they hear transgender. They think somebody who's actually a man and a woman, but this is intersex. Now, these people have the strongest case as outliers in the male-female dichotomy, the binary that the leftists hate so much, because they are true biological outliers in this binary system that our society recognizes. This is, as Greg said, a tiny fraction, much less than 1% of the total population, and to completely destroy the concept of male and female and jeopardize fairness and safety in women's sports because of this tiny, tiny fraction of people that there should be made an exception for. They shouldn't be barred or disqualified from sports. They should maybe on a case-by-case basis judge where these people are most fairly able to compete. But this is not the same as what transgenderism is, or fluid gender identity, or this newspeak gender theory from the left, from the far left, that says gender is a social construct that doesn't exist as a fixed objective measure of a person, but it's this fluid concept that can change with your own self-identity. So, and that's where, if you talk to a leftist who's really entrenched in this stuff, they will explain to you in their worldview, sex and gender are two completely different entities. Sex refers to your biological sex that you were born with, and there's a binary there, there's two of them. Whereas gender refers now, in their opinion, to a completely different thing, which is your own identity or self-perception of yourself or how you express yourself. Now, it was very useful to have one concept, gender, which is the social side of what your sexual organs say, right? A man, somebody who's born male, is a man, and that's their gender. Now, the left wants to completely detach this. They want to make this a completely different thing that can be severed from your sex, so that there aren't set gender roles. There's this murky spectrum of different identities that people can attach themselves to. All this to say, if they want to do that and they want to refer to themselves by different pronouns, they want to refer to themselves by different names, go ahead. But none of that should have implications on real sporting competitions. Because somebody expresses themselves by dressing differently or wants to be called by different pronouns, there's no basis for them to compete in sports, which is a real objective measure of athletic competition. So that's the argument, that's the burden of proof that's on them. Why should your own gender identity correspond with the physical, objective sporting event? Let's say it's wrestling. Wrestling is not a self-identity. Wrestling is somebody is actually pinning you, throwing you, taking you down with as hard as they can. And that can be extremely dangerous if you have a male doing it full blast to a female. And it's the furthest thing from a fair athletic competition. It's completely ridiculous, and most Americans do not agree with this. This is a very small group of loud radicals, a lot of whom are elitists that want to appear more civilized than the rest of us, I guess, by ascribing to these radical gender ideologies, which really stem from Marxism, cultural Marxism. The ideology of the far left doesn't just pertain to gender, it pertains to race, it pertains to social class. This is just one sliver of their total worldview. But they're willing to sacrifice the fairness and safety of women's sports, the safety of women's private spaces like women's bathrooms and locker rooms, just to appease this small minority of people who have a gender identity that's different than their physical, biological sex. People win in sports, and it's not a subjective feeling. It's an objective fact who wins. And they take pains to measure who wins. People spend years training, practicing to win by this much in a race, or to just be a little bit stronger than their opponent. This is not subjective, feel-good stuff. This is who actually won the athletic competition. So Jessica Tarlov is wrong to bring up this tiny minority of people as an exception that should then dictate what the rule is. That is not the way that most Americans want this issue to be approached, and it just goes against common sense. This is not how we would handle any other issue where there was a tiny minority of people that created an exception that ruined the entire thing. So anyway, let me know what you guys thought of this clip in the comments. Do you agree with Judge Jeanine here? Do you think that she addressed what Jessica Tarlov said correctly? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you guys get notified when we post brand new videos. And follow us on Substack at PolitiBrawl.substack.com. Check us out there. We're bringing you tons of content every single day. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.